I'm Karen. I think you all know me. Sometime in the last year, I came to the realization that Ralph, while posing as a tall, slim Jewish man, was actually a Buddhist. It actually came up because of a very sad reason. I talked with Ralph about whether we could figure out a way to have his brother Irvin come up from LA to see him, and he very calmly and quietly said that he didn't think Irv could travel, and that he'd already accepted that he wasn't going to see him again. While I was impressed with his serenity about it, I was also crushed by the thought. It started me thinking about other things he'd said about life that seemed very wise, and I remembered that he'd read quite a few books written by the Dalai Lama in the last couple of decades, and I realized those books must have had an influence. However, soon after that, I had an epiphany that really he'd always been Buddhist-like, as evidenced not only by his calm demeanor, but also by his choice of oft-used cliches. Let's examine his pearls of wisdom. So, it's better than a poke in the eye with a hot stick. Think about what it describes. It's grotesque to visualize, it's extremely debilitating, and it's potentially life-threatening as well. After many years of being mildly irritated at Ralph for saying it all of the time, I finally realized that his point was that most anything would be better than a poke in the eye with a hot stick. So if you recognized that what you thought you were so upset about was a lot better than that, then things could all of a sudden seem not so bad. Another one, that's what makes horse racing. A simple acceptance of what is and what is not. That's life in the berry bushes. Ditto on acceptance of one's destiny. What difference does it make? We believe that this was intended as a rhetorical question because we knew that Ralph wasn't asking for an answer. And the reality is that when all is said and done, most things that we spend time fretting about, really, in the end, what difference does it make? Slow and easy, speaks for itself, totally and completely Buddhist. Two wrongs don't make a right. Ralph must have said this to me a million times when I was a kid, when I was upset with Matthew for teasing me. I remember trying to argue with Ralph, in vain, of course, that if we'd had a third person involved in the dispute, instead of just Matthew and I knew without a doubt that the third person would most certainly agree with me, so that in the end, us two rights would be against the one wrong, which would be Matthew, of course. So therefore, I would win. But Ralph never bought it, and indeed, I understand these days that if you do the math, two wrongs really do never make a right. That and 45 cents will get you a cup of coffee. Clearly said in the days of styrofoam cups filled with Jumco snack bar coffee. This pretty much brings us back to what difference does it make? After spending your 45 cents, you're left with your styrofoam cup, Jumco coffee, and that's it. Because once again, you've wasted your time fretting over something that's just not that critical in the grand scheme of things, which he also used to say. That's about as useless as tits on a bull. It sounds a bit crass, and perhaps that's why people look at me kind of funny when I say it. But it's a quick way to describe dissatisfaction with an idea or concept that simply won't work. I don't know if this is particularly Buddhist or not, but I still really like it, mostly just because Ralph said it and my mom says it too. He was my biggest fan, my role model, my hero, the best dad in the world for me.